Hi, I'm Sam Naney with Cascade Endurance, and today we're going to talk through the 3 different ski imitation techniques which you can use to model skiing, whether it be Nordic skiing or skinning in the backcountry or in skimo on dry terrain while you're waiting for the snow to fly. So the first thing that's useful to have is a set of ski walking poles. There's a lot of different stuff you can use. You can take an old pair of Nordic ski poles and cut them down, or you can use a trekking or a trail running pole. That works really well. Ideally, you want the pole length to be about elbow height. You don't want them to be too tall because you're going to end up having to be really flexed here, and ideally what we're looking for is for you to be able to extend the arm out and back, particularly extend the elbow, which is useful for sort of finishing that push off. So again, poles with a comfortable strap. And for for the grade that you're doing this on, depends on the workout that you're using. If it's going to be something like hill sprints or intensity, you certainly want to pick a grade that is going to elicit that muscular response. If it's pretty flat, these techniques sort of get awkward because there's no glide component like there is on skis, and so your cadence and your poling is a little funky. So uphill terrain, and then select the grade of uphill depending on your workout. But the first technique that we'll work on is really sort of the aerobic oriented ski imitation technique known as ski walking, and sounds pretty much, or looks pretty much like it sounds. The easiest way to get into it is to start literally just walking, but with poles. So you're going to have an upright body position, hold the poles down low, and just start walking and sinking your poles to your feet. And for some folks, that's a good starting point, because just getting the poles and the feet in sync while you're walking can be a bit of a mind challenge. So start with that, and then when you feel like you've got that pretty well dialed, you can get a little bit more impulse into the forward driving leg. And that's where these ski imitation techniques all really pay their dues, is in helping to train the forward driving leg. Because again, whether we're talking about Nordic skiing or backcountry skiing or skimo, what we're looking to do is to drive the leg forward, to drive that ski forward, as opposed to always thinking about just kicking back, right? So when you're getting into the ski walking and progressing beyond just simply walking with poles, you want to think about driving that foot and pushing that hand when you finish with the pole, pushing it back behind you. Okay, so that's ski walking, and we'll revisit that here in a moment. The next one is lovingly known as moosehoofing. So moosehoofing, which is a translation from, I think, Norwegian, is a little bit more active form. So it's going to be the technique that you might use for your moderate intensity, your zone 3 interval workouts, or when you just want to kick up the level a little bit. It will typically, depending on the grade, kick your effort above your aerobic threshold. So it's going to take the idea of ski walking, and it's going to allow it to add a little bit of impulse so that you are actually airborne for a moment, just like you would if you were shifting from hiking to running. So I'll start with a ski walk, and then I'll progress to a moosehoof to show you. So ski walk, like this, and then moosehoofing. You're getting a little bit of impulse off the flat of the foot. And that's the other piece that's really important to think about, because when you're thinking about being on skis, here's the distinction between skiing, whether it be Nordic or backcountry or skimo, and running. With running, we're making the push off from the midfoot to or ball of the foot to the toes typically. And so your weight is under, if not even a little bit behind your hips, like this. But with skiing, we want to be able to set the ski down, set the wax or set the skin, and so your leg your foot is a little bit more flat. So just thinking about that when you make the moose hoof motion, you're going to be springing off of more of a flat foot. But again, it's not super explosive. You're not going for maximal power with the moose hoof. It's meant to be something pretty sustainable for, again, thinking about your moderate intensity, your zone 3 intervals, maybe 5 to 10 minutes would be an effort that you could sustain, that you would use moose hoofing for. Okay, and then the final of the 3 ski imitation techniques is bounding. And bounding is really your high energy, high power, explosive technique for really short duration. So think hill sprints, zone 4, your really maximal efforts. And the idea with bounding, and it's particularly relevant with Nordic skiing, but can also be so with skimo, is very akin to how we think about strength training. Because what you're trying to do with bounding is recruit the maximal number of motor units in a muscle and get them all to fire at the same time. So it's really explosive, just like a maximal a lift in a gym. So with bounding, you're taking the idea that you have with moose hoofing and you're ratcheting everything upward. So it's going to be quite explosive. So I'll give you the progression now from moose hoofing to bounding. So here's moose hoofing. Then when I want to switch to bounding, what you're doing is you're taking that motion and you're really focusing on exploding off of that foot and creating distance. So if you noticed, it's different from running in that running has a very even cadence, right? And bounding has this somewhat asymmetric wavelength to where you have this power impulse and then this moment of hang time. And then power, hang, power, hang. So again, moose hoofing, bounding. Okay. So just to summarize this all, I'll give you the ski walk to moose hoof to bound progression. So again, ski walking, a good aerobic level effort that you can do for a long, hour, 2 hours uphill. Into moose hoofing, into bounding. And those are your ski imitation techniques.